Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams again for day 4 of Vlogmas. Today we are going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of November. And I'm going to be putting a couple more in the basket so that tomorrow I can tell you all about the books that have made it to my basket from July through November. So here we go. I'm going to start with my lowest rated. I have 17 books to talk about. I'm going to start off with the one that I'm not rating here. No Two Persons by Erica Bauermeister was the third book in my 5-star predictions video that I made a couple months ago and said that I wanted to have them all done by December, and I did. I forgot when creating my schedule for Vlogmas to include a spot to do a wrap-up of my 5-star predictions. That will have to happen probably after Vlogmas is over in that week between Christmas and New Year's. I will say that I did really enjoy this. I wasn't sure how I was going to get along with the format. In this book, we follow a book through a variety of different people, from the author to people who work in the publishing side of things, an editor, and readers along the way, and how this book impacts so many different people along the way, and how everybody comes at it with different experiences and different backgrounds. And it was very different, but it worked for me. I won't tell you my official rating or more about it. You'll have to stay tuned for another video where I dive a little deeper into my thoughts on this book. But No Two Persons by Erica Bauermeister, I would say, is definitely worth the read. Then I had 2 NetGalley reads that were 2 stars for me. Both of them were rom-coms, and both were enemies to lovers. Both were more steamy than I normally prefer, but that's not actually the problem that I had with these books. Both of them felt very immature to me. So the 2 books that I read were Not in My Book by Katie Holt and The Makeup Test by Jenny Howe. The Makeup Test is set in a university setting. Our 2 main characters are post-grad students, and they're kind of rivals for a specific position. There's a fellowship or a grant or something that one of them has been setting her cap on. There's misunderstandings along the way, but their fighting was very irritating, and it took way too long to get to the point where there was interest in each other. I really didn't care for either of those 2 characters. I didn't mind the school setting. I did kind of like bits and pieces of it, but really 2 stars. The other one was very similar. Not in My Book by Katie Holt. We're also in a university setting with post-grad students, and this time they're writers, authors in a creative writing arena. And there's, again, this prestigious award that is granted for one person's work of art, and it kind of thrusts that person into published works and things like that. And so these 2 are they're very antagonistic towards each other. They're in the same creative writing seminar. One of them, our main girl character, writes romance, and the other one writes literary fiction, and they are very snobby about it. And I did like the friend group. This was the one redeeming factor of this book as opposed to the other one. Not in My Book by Katie Holt did have a really solid friend group that I really liked. But honestly, I didn't like either of the romances in either of these books because I couldn't stand any of the main characters. So not recommending those 2 at all. Not in My Book and The Makeup Test. Kind of bummers, but once I write the reviews, that's 2 more books on my NetGalley. And I'm holding this up because this is my Kindle, kind of represents those 2 books that I read on my Kindle. Moving then into my 3-star reads for the month, I had a middle grade fiction, Gail Forman's Not Nothing. I think this probably would be a 3.5. And I think all of these maybe are 3.5. I didn't quite feel like they were a 4-star read for me. In this one, we follow a kid who, for community service, has to work at a home elderly care center. In the course of working at this retirement home, he kind of discovers that he really enjoys talking with the older people who live there, and he has a knack for it. In particular, we follow him chatting with this one guy who wasn't really talking to anybody, but decides to open up to our kid. What is his name? Alex is our kid, and Josie is 107 years old, which is pretty amazing. So Josie opens up to Alex, and this is remarkable because Josie hasn't really spoken in a while. He's been very reclusive, not talking to anybody, but for some reason he starts telling Alex his story and connects with Alex in a really deep and meaningful way. It sounds like a book that I would really love, But for some reason, this was just okay for me. I didn't fall in love with it like I was hoping to, but still a stand-up, decent story. Another middle grade that I read for the month was The Hired Girl by Laura Amy Schlitz. I did really enjoy this. In it, we follow Joan, who is the only daughter in a family full of boys, and her dad is very harsh. It is set very early 1900s, 1910, 1911, and Joan, very early in the story, loses her mother. Her mom passes away. And now Joan is left at a very young age to care for her family. She has to do the laundry and clean the house and cook all the food and doesn't see any kind of hope of any change. She's not very happy about her life. She makes her way to a different city, finds a job working for a Jewish family, and Joan herself is very Catholic. And that was part of the story that I thought was really interesting. We definitely learned a lot in here about Catholicism and Jewish traditions and culture. And I thought that was very interesting in a middle grade book, something definitely that kids would learn about and be able to think about because of this story. And I really did appreciate that aspect of it. I liked Joan. I thought she was plucky. I thought she got herself into scrapes. She tried to pretend she was older than she was. It was a fun read. My next 3.5 star read is The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. This is a mystery set in India where we follow Geeta, whose husband has disappeared. And we're in a very small town in India, village, where everybody kind of knows everybody's business. The women are all very much in each other's business. And the gossips of the town have decided that her husband has left because Geeta got rid of him. In this town, there are a few women who are not very thrilled with their circumstances and the men in their lives who are in some cases abusive. And they come to Geeta and almost force her hand to have her help them become widows as well. All throughout is the story of this bandit queen, this legend woman who did get revenge on the men in her life because of the abuse that she had suffered. And so the bandit queen is often talked about, but throughout the course of this story, these women who don't always get along become this kind of secret club of women who will fight for each other. It's a little bit over the top. It's a little bit humorous, but it does deal with a lot of really heavy topics. The class system, racial divides in this part of India between religious groups as well. A lot of different things are talked about in here, and I thought it was really good, but also I didn't like a lot of the language, a lot of the way these women spoke about each other, about themselves, the names that they would call each other. It just was very off-putting for me. So it's not a new favorite, but I did think it was interesting. We're going to move on to my 4-star reads, and I have a handful of them here. Another NetGalley book that I had as a NetGalley audiobook is The Second Story Bookshop by Denise Hunter. I really enjoyed this story. It's not anything new necessarily. A young woman is the inheritor of this bookshop, along with her high school first love, basically. They both inherit this bookshop and have to run it together a little bit. So it is a second chance romance along with this bookshop trope of inheriting a bookstore that's on the brink of failure. And how are these two going to work together? They hadn't spoken in years. So are they going to work together? Are they going to manage this bookshop well? What's going to happen? Everyone in town kind of had a lot of preconceived ideas about the guy in this story. That was a little irritating, to be honest. Like, nobody seemed to be giving him a chance, even though he was a decent fella. They were kind of putting his family and things that members of his family had done, putting that all on him without really giving him a chance at all. Although then he did hurt her and left town, so that everyone's kind of holding that against him. Small town. This is what they do, I suppose. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's going to be super memorable or one that's going to stick with me forever, but yeah, 4 stars. I did a read along in the month of November of the book Prayer by Richard Foster. This is a Christian nonfiction that basically walks through about 20 different types of praying and prayer. And I found this conversation, first of all, to be really great. Emily's Epic Reads joined me on screen for these live conversations. They are all on my channel if you ever decide to pick this up and want to hear kind of some discussion about it along the way. We did break it into 3 different parts. So for 3 weeks in November, we came together to talk about this book. The first section was about like inward prayers that focus on us. Second section was upward, so prayers that focus on God and who he is and what he's done. And then the third section was outward, thinking more about the people around us and our world and our community and our country, and like going beyond ourselves. So I found this to be very good. This was a reread for me. I really enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did the first time I read it, but I did really like it. It is one that I feel like I can revisit, specifically different chapters along the way, not necessarily the whole book, but I did feel inspired and challenged to pray more. And I guess that's the purpose of a book about prayer, right? To feel kind of inspired and just had some creative ideas, a lot of practical ways to implement some of the prayers that he was talking about in this book. So enjoyed that one. I finally read the next book in the Seven Sisters series by Lucinda Riley. This one was The Shadow Sister. I really enjoy these books when I read them, but it's taking me forever to work through the series. This is only book 3. Ha! And they do have a historical element to them, or a historical feel. In this series, Pa and Ma Salt adopted 7 girls from all over the globe. And in each book, we will go through one of the sisters discovering her history and where she came from. So in this one, we follow Star, the third sister, who is very much tied at the hip with Cece. And they are a pair. They come together, but Star is starting to feel like she needs to branch out on her own. She's starting to feel like her relationship with Cece is not super healthy and that her voice is getting squished a little bit. And she wants to try to branch out, but she is a little bit shyer. She is a little bit more hesitant. She is very sheltered. Cece is the loud, boisterous personality, and Star's much more introverted and a little bit quieter. But in this book, we do see her kind of branch out, and Pa Salt has passed away, but left each of the girls an envelope with coordinates on a map and some clues about their history. So we follow Star as she follows those clues. She comes across an antiquarian bookshop, which is wonderful. She gets a job there. In the course of the story, discovers or is given journals of an ancestor of hers. And so there's almost a book within a book in this one as she reads through these journals of her ancestors. So it was really lovely. A bit of a romance in here, a bit of the historical side of things, which I really liked. And I like the book within a book trope. So this was a big hit for me. I do plan to read more in this series, eventually reading the whole thing. Who knows when I'll get to it all, but I did really like The Shadow Sister. Next up, I have The Spell Shop, another 4-star read by Sarah Beth Durst. Cozy fantasy. I really enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun. We follow Keela, who lives in the main part of the empire, if you will. There's an uprising. She works in the library. The library is basically on fire. She has to escape. So she grabs Kaz, her sentient spider plant, and she grabs a whole bunch of books that she rescues from this library that's burning. And she travels to this island where she grew up to hide the books, to escape from this chaos that's happening in the empire, the main city. On the island, she kind of opens up a jam shop. She learns that she has a little bit of magical ability using some of the spells from these books. So there is magic in this world. Clearly, her best friend is this Kaz, a spider plant who talks and is a fantastic character. She meets people on the island. She meets people who knew her family, knew her back when she was younger. Different kind of creatures along the way, and the drama from the main city makes its way to the island, and she has to decide what she's going to do about it. So I really enjoyed this. I'm definitely looking forward to reading more from Sarah Beth Durst. When I was not feeling well earlier in the month, I just wanted something quick and easy for the night, and I picked up the Tuck Everlasting graphic novel, which is another NetGalley book. So I have a lot of reviews to write. I'm going to have to work those into vlogs this month. But I really, really love the artwork and the art style of this graphic novel. Tuck Everlasting has a special place in my heart. It is a book I had to read for a children's lit class when I was in college, and I just really, really loved it. It's just a fun story of this family, the Tuck family, who discover a spring in the woods, which are across the way from Winnie Foster's home. And when Winnie meets the Tucks, this is their story of what happens from there. And I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was a really good adaptation of the original work, and I love the art style. So well done, Kay Woodman Maynard. Well done. Okay, the last 4-star read that I have is The Stolen Queen by Fiona Davis. I read this as part of my Flip and Roll TBR. My patrons got to pick one of my NetGalley books with a neutral cover, I believe. And this is the one that they picked that I gave them. I love Fiona Davis. I really enjoy her historical fiction books. This one is about the Met Gala in particular in New York City. Fiona always takes a building in New York and tells a little bit of its history along with this historical story, and usually about real people involved in the situation. And that is the case here as well. This one, we also go to Egypt, however. So in The Stolen Queen, at this big Met Gala event, an Egyptian artifact goes missing. And so we follow 2 women. One is part of the curator team and one is a newer worker at the Met Gala. So we have followed their stories up until this night. And then the 2 of them kind of come together to figure out who stole the queen, where is she? And they travel to Egypt. And it's really about the friendship between the 2 of these women and also the history of like the Egypt artifacts in the Met, and should they have been taken from Egypt in the first place, and kind of that question of who owns these things, and is it okay to keep them if they will be taken care of better here? Is that not okay? I loved the questions about the art and the things that brought up to think about, but I also just love the story of these 2 strong women, both in different ways, and I loved the Egypt aspect of it, and I loved the historical side of it. I just really enjoy Fiona Davis. So that one was a 4-star read for me. I have 4 left and my book club starts in 7 minutes. Can I do it? I read 2 more of the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. I read book 3, volume 3, and volume 4. These are 5-star reads across the board. This has just been a matter of finding the right book at the right time. These journals are a delight. They're so wonderful. I'm really enjoying them on audio. Emma M. Lyon is a remarkable character who I really enjoy reading about as she writes her journals and all of the escapades and things that are happening around her and to her and things that she gets involved with. I like the very, very slight blossoming of a relationship, in particular in these ones. I don't remember if it was 3 or 4. We really see the forming of a friendship between Emma and 3 dudes. The guy who lives in part of her home. They've like sectioned off a part of her home. It's like 4 stories, which is why I'm doing this. And he lives in that part of it. Also the vicar, and also there's a duke in this town. So these 3 men are already friends, and Emma kind of becomes a part of their little cohort. And I love the blossoming of that friendship between these 3. In my heart, I'm pretty sure the relationship is going to be between her and the dude that lives in the apartment that's part of her house. But also, I could see a blossoming relationship with any of the other 2 guys too. So, which is kind of fun as I'm reading, like, oh, but is she going to get together with this guy? Ooh, but who is this dude? It's not a romance. It's not really a romance. It's more like slice of life. Each journal focuses on one kind of big event, but we see a little bit of the ins and outs of things around it. I just really, really love them. Beth Brower, you're awesome. And I can't wait to read more of Emma M. Lyon. I can't wait. And then my 2 print books that I really loved this month were Across the Ages by Gabriel Meyer. This is book 4 in the Timeless series. I love this series so much. In this book, our women that we're following live in 2 timelines at the same time. When they go to sleep in one, they wake up in the other. And on their 21st birthday, they have to decide which timeline they're going to live in for the rest of their lives. And in this one, we're in 1927, St. Paul, Minnesota. And Caroline is the daughter of a preacher. And it's in kind of Prohibition era. And I really, really enjoyed that historical storyline. And her other storyline is 1727. And Caroline is a pirate. She disguises herself as a boy to work on a ship, which is super cool. I really enjoy this. Again, I've said it before about these books. They're Christian fiction. And I think the historical timelines are fantastic. And the faith elements are fantastic. I really appreciate how Caroline works in faith to these stories. And I feel like it feels realistic to, if these things were really happening, which obviously they're not happening, right? We don't live in two timelines. But I feel like the way that our main characters speak with God and pray and their relationship to God and to things of the Lord, of faith, feels very realistic, which I really appreciate. So love, love, love. And the last one that I read, also, I read this in about a day. And another one that I definitely read in a day was What She Left Behind by Ellen Marie Wiseman. I love Ellen Marie Wiseman, and this was another hit for me. In it, we follow two women. Clara is in 1929, and Clara refuses to marry the guy that her dad has chosen for her because he's gross and not a good dude. And she voices her dissent to her father, and her father has her put into an asylum, which is horrifying. And we get to see the things that happened to her there. Also, we follow, in a more present timeline, Izzy. Izzy's mother shot her father while he was sleeping, and she has only good memories of her dad, and so she refuses to go and visit her mom, who is in prison. In the foster family where she works, they go to the asylum where Clara was years before and are starting to uncover things about this asylum, and in particular things about Clara herself. And so Izzy there's some kind of connection there between the two of them. And I just thought it was done so well. I was so captivated by the start of this, and it didn't let me go. It had me in a chokehold. I think I started it after work and I stayed up until after midnight to finish it because I just couldn't put it down. It's fantastic. Ellen Marie Wiseman tells such a good story. So that's the last one. Here are all the books. I'll put my Kindle on top. Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word. So here are all the books that I have that I read in the month of November. Fantastic reads. The ones going into my favorites basket are these two. If I had the Emma M. Lyon series, I would put those in there as well. But I think just these two for this month are going into the basket. And that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you in another Vlogmas video tomorrow. Bye.